You're tuned to KSJE, Farmington, New Mexico, 90.9 FM. And now 103.3 FM, K277CR, Durango, Colorado.
We have a 911. Armed robbery in progress. See surplus store corner Peoples Drive, North 24th Street.
And good morning or early afternoon, and welcome to the CopShop with FPD. I'm Chief Steve Hebbe, and with me as always is...
Nicole Brown.
There she is. She is bedecked today with her Vote for Murray t-shirt.
Vote for Bill Murray.
There you go. I have a little problem with that. Bill Murray's a big Cubs fan. I'm a Brewer fan. I'm probably not going to vote for Bill, but I respect your freedom to endorse Bill Murray in such a public way.
He's pretty amazing.
He's pretty amazing. So we've had lots of events over the last 2 weeks since we were last together.
Yeah, lots going on.
Of course, continuing is the COVID order, the public health orders from the governor continue to be in effect. Yesterday she had another press conference, and we did not really see any significant change in businesses or in our condition here in Farmington.
Just the school.
Just the school.
Yeah, they made that announcement that schools will be online until Labor Day, and because we thought, they kind of put out their gating criteria and stuff, and they kind of thought we were going to be on a downward trend, and we're, as a state, on an upward trend. Although I did notice that the northwest corner, we're the only area in the state that's on a downward trend right now, so hopefully that lasts for us.
Yes.
But we'll see. But yeah, that's a big decision for a lot of parents and people in the community and all across the state. It's going to be interesting. More online schooling for kids. Yay! Yeah,
more. Yes, they might be happier than parents might be about it. But we still have the mask order, which is in effect anytime you're basically outside of your house or your immediate work area. And that in particular impacted restaurants. Restaurants could no longer have inside dining, so they're back to outside dining. So again, and I think we did this a couple of months ago. We're asking to support our local businesses, restaurants that still have people working for them. Order out. You do the pickup.
Yeah, and the city of Farmington, I thought it was really clever and really great. I don't know. I heard that maybe it was the mayor that came up with it, but they had their kind of pop-up shade tents that they use in the parks, and so they made them available for local businesses, local restaurants so they could set up patio areas if they didn't already have that set up. So I thought that was a great way to help keep them moving and alive and give them something other than just dine out. They could have their patio areas and stay doing business.
Yeah, and that's you are seeing a lot of businesses that traditionally don't have outdoor seating, and they've got some up, and
they figured it out.
And I actually like that. That's something I think that Farmington could have used more of through the years. And so if this helps drive some stuff outside, I like that. I think that's a good idea. Mm-hmm. We certainly have the climate for it. That's supposed to be one of the attractors here. So
right, all the sunshine.
And the other significant event was baseball started yesterday, I believe.
Woohoo! I'm so excited.
So if you're a baseball fan and you're missing Connie Mack, you're now catching the beginning of the season in the pros. And I think it was the Yankees and the Nationals were on yesterday and starting the season off. So it'll be a sprint. It's only 60 games this year instead of the 162 usually. So we'll see how that goes. I hope my Brewers have the pitching staff to last 60 games. I don't think they could have made 162. So there's hope for us at this level.
Brewers are my second team.
Your first team is?
Diamondbacks.
Okay. No, that's good. I like the Diamondbacks too.
But I went to a Brewers game when my boyfriend and I went to Chicago, and then we drove up to Milwaukee and went to a Brewers game, and the fans were so awesome, and it was such a cool environment that I was like, I kind of have to be a Brewers fan a little bit now.
If you can deal with losing, you can be a Brewers fan.
I mean, I'm a Diamondbacks fan.
I've got 50 some years of being a Brewers fan, but bet the Packers for a long time. The Milwaukee Bucks, I think I've been kind of used to it. So when they win, it's really special.
It's so fun.
And really, the last 2 years have been pretty good for the crew. So there's a bunch of different things going on, and then Nicole decided she was going to do something different with her work schedule. I say Nicole because I don't really seem to drive Nicole's work in almost any meaningful way that a chief or boss would. Nicole kind of comes and goes as she pleases.
I really just follow what what I feel the community needs
the community,
from me.
The people are calling you.
Yeah, the community, what they want from their police department and their PIO, that's what drives my schedule.
Yeah. Well, and so that led her on a ride-along / tweet-along.
Yeah.
Virtual ride-along, I guess you called it.
Yeah. So we aren't doing ride-alongs right now because of COVID. So I thought that it was a great idea to do kind of a virtual ride-along and take everybody that follows us on one. And so I spoke with Sergeant Anaya, and he agreed, thankfully, because I don't know, I was a little nervous about. Well, yeah, I was a little nervous about sergeants being like, "Yeah, just come right along, and I'll talk on Facebook and Instagram for you." But he thankfully agreed, and it was a really fun night. And at first it was a little bit slow, so we posted, I thought, well, we can get to know some of the officers, so we posted about one of our field training officers, Officer LaMonica, who is an excellent officer. He does a great job. And then, yeah, I told him, I said, it's going to be like cop style. I'm going to just film you and you talk about what calls we're responding to. But we also wanted to be really mindful about the people at those calls. It's real people. It's never, we've talked about it before. People are not having a good day when they call for officers. So I just kind of let Anaya kind of narrate everything. So, this is what we're responding to, and then we would do a follow-up. This is kind of where that ended up. And then we would every once in a while just kind of post, these aren't just the only calls that we're handling right now. We're also handling barking dogs and civil complaints and shoplifters and things like that. So, and Wednesdays are a good day because it's a shift overlap day. So we have both the kind of front end of the week shift and the back end of the week shift. They overlap on Wednesday. So there was lots of officers out, and it was really fun. It had a really good feedback from the community. They seemed to really enjoy it. We got lots of cool messages saying, let's do more of it. So we'll see. Maybe day shift in the future.
Yeah. So, that can be a disruptor in the middle of the week as a little swing shift action when you've been working days. But Nicole's a trooper. She bounced back. She's still here answering the bell even on her day off today for the radio show, which she adores. I think it's her number one thing.
I love KSG.
Yes. We could talk about Scott for a little while. Scott was, kind of in my crosshairs when I got here to work today, but I love Scott too. So
Scott's the best.
Scott's the best.
He
yes.
is.
I'm trying to make direct eye contact with our audience when I say that. So. So we've also had, over the last week and a half, nationally, a bunch of stuff going on with police, and some of that is now going to come home here in Farmington, or at least in New Mexico, and that is the deployment of federal police officers to various cities around the country to deal with the different problems. So Portland was the first one to see them, and Portland was more in response to significant protests. I think they're on like day 57 or 58 in a row.
Yeah, it's been pretty nonstop for them.
So I think last night they had like 2,000, they said, which actually didn't sound like that big, but the amount of destruction that appears to have been going on in Portland is significant. Some of that was happening to federal properties, the courthouse and things like that, and so the president ordered federal police officers into Portland to protect those facilities, apparently. And that is met with a variety of reactions from citizens, regardless of which side of the aisle you're on. They're there, and they're policing in Portland. And that led the president then to begin looking at other places that he could do something. I think he's calling a surge, basically. And the first one that came to mind was Chicago, and certainly Chicago has been dealing with just unprecedented gun violence, and that's hard to believe for a city that's had unprecedented gun violence, reasonably regularly through the years.
Yeah.
So you can expect federal officers will be deployed in Chicago. It sounds like they'll be there to try and target, some of the biggest gun offenders and cut down on some of the shootings that we seem to see every weekend. I think they had 14 people shot at a funeral just this last week, and that might have been the last straw that drew the feds into that. But we're also going to have federal deployment of resources here in Albuquerque, and depending on which side of the aisle you are on that one, it's a good or a bad thing. I think Sheriff Gonzalez is saying that it's a good thing, and he wants to cooperate with federal authorities. I'm not sure where APD will be on that, if Albuquerque PD is going to be part of cooperating. I think, again, there aren't mass civil disturbances like you're seeing in Portland. I think more the problem is gun violence and some of the violent crimes that we've seen in Albuquerque. And so, from a law enforcement perspective, frankly, I would take any effort to get violent people out of our state. So we do participate with the feds. We have a Safe Streets officer working with FBI, and specifically what we target is gun crimes, where we can take violent people who are using weapons to commit crimes in our community. Let's get them into the federal system. Let's get them out of our community. So from a simplistic perspective, I support that, but I also understand there's a political part to that. I'm not discounting that people have different views, in particular of what's going on in Portland. But like it or not, they're here, and we'll see how things go over the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, no, it's going to be a big deal, but it's not. I think something incredibly new, because we were a part of another operation. I know we went down for the press conference in Albuquerque,
yes.
Where some of our officers assisted with that operation, and that was working close with federal agents and state agents. So it's not something that's terribly new to New Mexico, but maybe the previous ones weren't as publicized on the front end as this one is.
Yes.
I think this is being publicized a lot before they get here, instead of after the operation's over.
So I guess my other feeling, because I am torn on some of this stuff, my other feeling is that policing should be accomplished by the locals. That's my job. That's our police department's job. I'm sure that Chief Geyer feels the same way, and probably the chief in Chicago, who's fairly new on the gig up there. He had been chief in Dallas, and now he's chief in Chicago less than a year, I think. I'm sure that they feel the same way. So you kind of hate seeing a deployment of outside federal officers to do the job that basically you and your department should be doing, with cooperation and support from them. And the feds do bring a lot of resources, and they have some particular skill sets. That's why we do cooperate in task forces with them. So there's lots of good in that partnership, but just on the day-to-day policing and keeping your community safe, I probably would not be in favor of seeing a large federal deployment here to try and do what I think we are doing a good job of, and I'm sure that those departments wish they were having more success in stopping gun violence and stopping shootings and things like that, and so I'm sure they would take support in it, but I'm not so sure they're probably in love with what looks like kind of we're coming in and doing it regardless of whether you want to work with us or not.
Yeah, and that term community policing, I think, is kind of a broad term, but when you think about your local police are local. They live in the community. They participate in, just local things day in and day out. And then, of course, they're enforcing laws in the community. And so they have a vested interest in things going well. And,
right.
And having that good relationship. Whereas, federal agents that maybe don't live in the community and they're just here for a short period of time don't necessarily have that, and they don't have the connections. I mean, there's a lot of local officers who have worked at the jail and then became officers, and so they know people in the community, and they have connections in the community that those federal agents maybe don't.
So this is also a chance to kind of look at, because all of these issues are complex enough that they defy the quick reactions that unfortunately so often American news captures. But a few years ago, 4 or 5 years ago, it was popular in some of the left-leaning circles, and Reverend Al Sharpton was one, to talk about a national police force. And I was not a fan of the notion of a national police force. When you have a problem with a Farmington police officer, you call Farmington Police Department Internal Affairs Division. We're reactive to it. We're right here with you. When you have a national police force, this is what it can look like. They're bringing in officers from around the country. They're going in there. They're doing their job. I suspect there are not a lot of internal affairs complaints being handled. That's just my guess from my experience of dealing with Washington, D.C. as the center hub of a police force. So if you really are an advocate for national policing, well, let's watch and see how it goes. There will be advantages to it. You can have one streamlined set of policies that the entire nation police force falls under. I like some of those things. You'll get away from some of the, you go to this town, their police force isn't very good. You go to this town, it is. But on the other hand, the notion of a reactive police department that is part of your community and invested in your community, I think we're going to get a chance to see how that works in the next couple of weeks.
It'll be interesting.
It will be interesting.
And like you said, it's complex. It's not you can't just say this is how it's going to be and that's what'll happen. It's a complex issue, and there's more than one side to it.
So before we get too far away, we actually had a video that you had put up, and I think Scott even has up somewhere on his website of you with Justin and Aya when you were doing your ride along. But you can find that on FPD's Facebook page. It's still up, and it's it's an Aya kind of talking with you about the shift and about how the day's going.
Yeah, no, we did several little updates. But his first kind of introduction is, this is who we're riding with tonight, and he kind of introduced himself, and he started with Santa Fe Police Department and then moved laterally to us, and really just as an officer, he's an asset to the community, I feel.
Yeah.
So yeah, and Scott's got it up. I don't know, can you unmute it,
Crimes
Scott?
homicide detective with the Santa Fe Police Department, now currently assigned to the swing shift back end of the week. I cover swings from 3 o'clock in the afternoon till 1 o'clock in the morning. My particular shift is over the weekend, so I supervise all my officers at doing swing shift hours up until Sunday afternoon. Today's been
So yeah, it was a good little ride along, and we did several little updates like that throughout the shift, and he was such a good sport. We had one where we had to do several takes, but
I've actually had those kind of. So
he was such a good sport about it, and he was funny. He was, oh no, don't use that one. I said too many times, or no, I don't like how I phrased that. Let's do that again. So I was glad that I had picked him because he was very particular about, making sure that he represented his shift correctly and that he was representing the community correctly. So
I'll have to bring Justin in to talk a little bit about here on the radio, because there's not there's not new takes. This is all live.
I know,
baby.
this is
just us.
off the cuff.
This is where really the rubber meets the road.
Honestly, we got the giggles, and then we can't be laughing about things that we were talking about, so we had to. It's silly when you're filming someone in their car and you get the giggles, and so.
Yes.
But it was good.
So we're nearing the show goes fast.
Oh my gosh, this show went really fast.
We need to make it an hour show. I don't know how.
No,
So
I don't know about that.
It might be an hour, from now on. Well, we're going to show you a clip here on something a little different. This one just hits me because we're big right now on America and the numerous flaws that we have as a country, and of course we do. And we talk about them ad nauseum, almost to the exclusion of almost anything else going on in the world. And so the clip that we have up right now is from a BBC reporter that's interviewing the Chinese ambassador to Great Britain, to the United Kingdom. And he's going to ask him about a video here that you're going to see. And I think this exchange, which has gone, I do not see it on American media. We are not talking about it. But what is alleged is that the Chinese government has rounded up nearly 1 million Muslim ethnic minority called the Uyghurs, and has put them in re-education camps. That some of the slave labor stuff that we've heard some chatter about, it comes from this camp. And here it appears that they are being transported on trains, not unlike what happened in Nazi Germany with the Jews. And you do not hear it. We're so focused on mask fights, on everything else. I want you to take a minute and let's watch this video.
Stephen, can I hold the baby, please? No.
Can I hold the baby?
So we're actually having an audio problem, which never happens with Scott here. The Chinese ambassador is being asked about this video, and he initially is kind of, where did you get the video? I can't really see anything there. And then he asks the reporter, have you ever been to this region of China? And the reporter says no. And he says, this is a beautiful region in China. It's just and the reporter kind of checks him up and says, no, I'm asking you, Mr. Ambassador, what is going on here? That in 2020, you have people that are handcuffed, kneeling with their heads shaved, and they are being loaded on trains. What is going on here? And he does not really have an answer to that. And you can watch this video on YouTube. I think it's up on Scott's website. You can click onto it. We are not even talking about this in our country. So I do get that American policing and America itself is flawed and we have some problems. But we are focused on 350 million people in a world that has over 8 billion. And there is a lot of other injustices going on anywhere. So one of the slogans that we like to have up is injustice anywhere is injustice everywhere. Okay, how much more injustice could we be looking at? We've certainly talked through the years about never having another Holocaust, and these people are being loaded up on trains. That actually is exactly what the Nazis were doing with the Jews. And nobody has a clue what's going on, and when you ask the ambassador to that country about it, his answer initially is, what a beautiful region of the country it is. I'm sure Auschwitz had some beautiful areas around it, but I'm not sure that was the point of looking at a video of what was going on in Auschwitz. And then his follow-up answer, if you watch some of the other clips, is, this is something normal that all countries do. They're transferring prisoners from one prison to another. Honestly, in the United States, I have never seen an event like that where they are kneeling with their heads shaved and handcuffed behind them and loaded up on trains to be taken to destinations unknown. So as we sit here today, I know that there's a lot of reasons to doubt America and to question American law enforcement, and I get it, and we're going to talk about it a lot. But we should not have our head in the sand about some of the things that are going on in other countries and how unbelievably great we have it here in our country by comparison. And these people right now are nameless and faceless, and they should not be. We should be worried about what's going on over there. Injustice there is injustice. And so there's my little rant. I get one a week or one every 2 weeks, but that video meant something to me.
No, it's very impactful and concerning, and sometimes I think that as Americans we get wrapped up in what's going on here and the two parties and all of this other stuff, and we forget that there's a whole world out there, and there are so many other issues that are impacting thousands of people, millions of people, that we're not as concerned with.
So we'll kind of leave you with that. Some bigger thoughts other than just Farmington and America, and we hope that you have a good couple of weeks. Watch that video, please, and we'll see you in 2 weeks on the CopShop with FPD.